Hi, welcome to the Daily Record, High School Football Insider. I'm sports editor Aaron Dorksen, along with sports writer Mike Plant. Mike, thanks for joining us.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Aaron.
Doesn't get much more exciting than this, Mike. Two area teams in the Elite Eight. Norwin in Division 4, West Holmes in Division 3. Trying to whittle it down, and they're trying to make it to the Final Four with wins. They couldn't be doing it with much more opposite styles, though. As our area fans know by now, Norwin has the shotgun spread. They're going to throw the ball all over the field, put up huge passing numbers. They whipped Youngstown Liberty 54-7 last week as quarterback Joe Dreyer set the all-time area single-season passing yardage mark. They can run the ball too. John Zimmerly, just under 2,000 yards. West Holmes, pretty much all running. Lane Perrone is closing in on 2,000 yards as a team. They're rushing for around 4,000 yards on the season. Gabe Snyder can make some passes, but he's more around 800 yards passing. But it all worked in a victory over Steubenville last week, and it sets up some pretty good matchups for them, Mike.
Sure does. Friday night, Division 4 action. Aaron and I will be at Stowe. We're going up to Stowe High School to watch a rematch of last year's first-round playoff game between the Norwin Bobcats and the Brookfield Warriors. Aaron, both teams coming into this game 12-0, and had a chance to talk to Randy Clark, Brookfield's coach, the other night, and we'll get to his comments a little bit later, but he's, of course, very impressed with what he's seen from Norwin, and, of course, I had to bring up last year's game, and he said, revenge, no, redemption, maybe, because it was a 42-7 game, and a lot of players from both teams in that game will be back on the field Friday night. And then we get to double dip it, Aaron, Saturday night, cruise over, make the short little ride over to Fawcett Stadium, great facility for 11-1 West Holmes taking on the 10-2 Dover Tornadoes. And you might have touched on a little bit earlier, polar opposites. Dover, we've come to think about them as a wide open throwing the ball offense, and West Holmes, as always, will go with ground control and an outstanding defense that you chronicled in a story this week in the Daily Record.
Well, we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll go into the matchups more in depth.
Welcome back to the Daily Record's High School Football Insider Playoff Edition, Week 3 of the playoffs, as we tangle in some regional finals this weekend. I'd like to welcome our special guest in the studio, Dan Starcher, who's really taken over this week's show as the executive producer. And Aaron, talk about West Holmes a little bit, taking on Dover, not too far away geographically, but the Knights are 0-5 against Dover. I'm not sure if that's relevant this year, but the last time they played was in 2004. Regardless of when they played, there's never been this much at stake.
No, that's right. Mike, this is just the third time West Holmes has ever advanced to a regional final. They've never gotten to the state Final Four, so I was down there talking to some of those guys this week, and what a thrill that would be if they could go the furthest of any team. Dover actually lost to Ashland earlier this year, and West Holmes beat Ashland, so you can't do too much with those scores, but what that does tell me is this is a winnable game. It's not like they're playing some team that's out there and it's just everyone's picking to win state. I see this as pretty much a 50-50 game. Interesting, I would bring up Ashland because they compare Dover to Ashland, probably the most of any team they play as far as the wide open offense. West Holmes fans going over to Fawcett Stadium are going to be hearing the name Mason Mammarella all night long. He's a slippery, quick, athletic quarterback. He's rushed for over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's thrown for over 2,800 yards and 29 touchdowns. So he pretty much has the ball every play. Their receiving core comes close to the numbers that Norwin's been putting up. They have 5 receivers with 25 or more catches, led by Corey Contini, 67 grabs for 927 yards. And wow. You want an outstanding lineman up front? How about Demetrius Farmer, 6'2", 265 pounds. He has 119 tackles, 11 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. He's the Eastern District Player of the Year, getting Division I looks. Mammarella was the Offensive Player of the Year. But hey, those Knights are in the same district. I'm sure they're going to be saying, hey, we have some Player of the Year candidates. One guy that Mammarella beat out was Lane Perrone. All he's done is top 1,900 yards rushing. The team has 3,934 yards rushing. Other guys that can run the ball are Garrett Mackey, Grant Hay, the quarterback Gabe Snyder had a big run last week. He's also thrown the ball pretty well. So Coach Mulch said the team's really just continues to gel. They're as unselfish as any he's had, and he says it's all about assignment football when they're on defense, reading Dover's keys. And let's go ahead and listen to some of the comments that Coach Mulch had when I went down to Millersburg to talk to him this week.
We're very excited about how our team's playing right now. Our kids are really starting to gel, and they're playing mistake-free football, and that's one big thing that we've got to do, especially heading into here to the regional finals and hopefully on further, is we can't make mistakes, we can't turn the ball over, and if somebody does that, we've got to make sure that we take advantage of the things that we create. One thing, a couple things I guess about Dover is we got to make sure that we're playing our very best football. They're a spread attack. They love to throw the ball all over the place, and we got to make sure that we're playing assignment football, and we got to make sure that we're reacting to the football when it is in the air, and we got to stay on our feet and make solid tackles. What we present to them offensively is, we're going to do what we do. We're going to pound the ball right at them, and they're going to give us a 5-3 look, and we got to make sure that we distinguish where they're lining up and how they're going to cover us and how they're going to attack us, and then we're going to attack them from there.
It was always it's always nice to hear from the players and coaches down there in Holmes County as they get ready for their big game. Before we get to the West Holmes game Saturday night, Aaron, Friday night, be up at Stowe Monroe Falls High School. Looks like a pretty nice facility. Turf, of course. We're always anxious to look at the press box. It didn't look too bad. For a rematch of last year's first-round game, only this time these teams are both coming in 12-0. And with a lot of familiar faces that played in last year's game, in which Norwin led 14-0 at the half, and then broke it open with 3 third-quarter touchdowns and went on to win 42-7. But Aaron, I know Brookfield, they got to the playoffs last year for the first time in 18 years, and that was a big to-do. Ended up losing to the eventual state champions, but they were really pointing at this year. With a lot of their key players are seniors. And it all starts on offense with their running back, Ryan Mosara, who has over 2,000 yards this year, averaging almost 10 yards a carry. And he's got, between last year and this year, Aaron, over 4,000 rushing yards. He's about 5'11", about 185. Norwin fans will remember him. And the second component in Brookfield's offense, really, that makes him go is their quarterback, Jeremy Quinlan, another senior, about 6'3". Interestingly enough, last year, early in the season, he broke his collarbone, played in the Norwin game, but was not at full strength, or not as sharp as he is. I mean, this year they don't throw the ball much. He's thrown for just over 1,000 yards, and he's also, though, Aaron, averaged 945 yards on the ground. So those are the two main running backs, but that's not all for Brookfield on offense. Running back Joey Clark, who is head coach Randy Clark's son, has 313 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground and another 19 catches. And his dad told me the other night that they've been starting to run a lot of 2-backs in the backfield and getting the ball to Joey Clark a little bit. Leading wide receiver, 6'4", Colin Herkulich, who has 20 catches, 6 touchdowns. Defensively, offensively, Brookfield averaging just over 400 yards a game, giving up less than 200, Aaron, including only 66 yards a game on the ground. Jimmy Quinlan, the quarterback's twin brother, is a middle linebacker. He's got 130 tackles this year. And, we all know that Norwin likes to throw the ball. Herkulich has 8 interceptions, Jeremy Quinlan 6, and Mosara another 4. So they're ball hawkers back there. Not as big as they were last year. They have a 270-pound two-way lineman, but the rest of the guys are in the 220-pound range. But head coach Randy Clark told me that they're faster this year, and that was the part of the game that they kind of underestimated last year, was the speed of the Norwin Bobcats.
I think this is a really interesting matchup, Mike, because if you're Brookfield, ever since last year, first of all, you watch Norwin go on to keep winning and win state, and you're thinking that's the team that beat us. Then you hear that they have all these guys back. So all year, I think in Brookfield, they've had Norwin as the team circled. Let's get another shot at them because they know if they're going to advance. So I think this is a lot better Brookfield team. They're really going to have it out for redemption against the Bobcats. So Maybe Norwin will get a better game. I still like the Bobcats in it, but still no one's even came within 16 points of them all year. But Brookfield's been beating that teams that bad too. So, I mean, something really has to give. These Norwin numbers these guys are putting up are just staggering. I mean, they now have the single season school record holder and area record holder for passing yards, Joe Dreyer, as we mentioned at the top of the show. 3,182 yards now. He's completed 68% of his passes.
And to think that the big question was who was going to replace Adam Wallace.
Exactly. Brady Berger's your single season yardage record at Norwin. He has a chance to break the area single season mark. He has 1,204 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns. John Zimmerly, as we mentioned, he has 1,968 yards. I think the area record's around 2,300 yards or 24, so they keep advancing in the playoffs. But, you know, it's all adds up. I think it's going to be a close game, but, you know, you have to like Norwin, and same with the West Holmes-Dover matchup. All indications are this could be a very close game. West Holmes beat Steubenville 35-7 last week, but I like the Knights in that one.
Well, touching on the Friday night game real quick, Brookfield last week against Manchester, a familiar foe to area football fans. They ran 72 offensive plays to Manchester's 39. And head coach Clark told me, he said that's the ideal thing. We're ecstatic with 4 yards a carry. I think that's what they're going to try to do. Last year's game, they fell behind, and their quarterback threw the ball 28 times. They're averaging not even half that many attempts this year. The more they throw the ball, the more trouble I would think they'd be in that game.
Well, there we have it. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Thanks for everyone that watched this week's program. We'll hope to be back next week previewing both teams playing again. But for now, thanks for watching the Daily Record High School Football Insider. You can read about the teams in our paper, read about them in the website, and keep following our videos.
Thanks for watching.